Hi, I'm Liz Forrest, and today for Community Dialogues, I have Lawrence Eyre here with me from the Carnegie Museum, and we're going to visit just a little bit about the amazing things that the museum brings to our community. And I'd love to hear just a little bit of background on the Carnegie Museum, if you'd just kind of let us know how it came to be here and just give me some info.
You bet. It's 130 years old, and this year with the tuck pointing that's happening, if you drive by, you'll see that there's a lot of construction. It's the first time in a century plus 30 years that they've ever remortared that building. That shows how well made it was. And we're delighted that it's not only still standing, but is thriving on the inside. It began really just as a conversation between Andrew Carnegie and the one senator Fairfield has ever had in the United States Senate, James Falconer Wilson. And they were friends. And they became friends on an ocean voyage. Nowadays, people will become friends on an 8-hour transatlantic flight. Back then, it was a couple weeks on an ocean liner. Yeah. And the United States was a place that Carnegie came to make his fortune and did. United States Steel prospered, as we know. And in western Pennsylvania, he founded 4 libraries there just for his workers, truthfully. So basically Pittsburgh. But the fifth of all the 2,500 worldwide libraries funded by Andrew Carnegie was here in Fairfield, Iowa. It was the first in Iowa, first west of the Mississippi, in fact, at all. And it was because of the friendship between Wilson and Carnegie. Wilson said, "I will donate the land, and Mr. Carnegie, will you donate money for a combination library and museum?" Wow. Fairfield had had a library since 1853 and had outgrown it, and they had had a small museum, but it was, how do I say, overgrowing itself so that they had even put museum items on the bookshelves. Wow. So Carnegie took pity on us, in a sense, and said, here's the money, no strings attached, the equivalent of $1.4 million. And in 1893, the museum then opened as a library primarily, but with a museum within it. And here we have it today. With the new library opening in the late 1990s, we have the entire building available. Indian Hills Community College has the second floor for its classes, but on first and third floors at the Carnegie building, we have museum, and proud to see it's expanding.
Yeah, I was recently there at the museum and was super excited to see how much it had changed since I was a kiddo, and just visiting on field trips and the expansion to see how much new items have come into the museum, and like how it's definitely kind of segregated out almost in different sections. Do you have like different like time periods, or how do you guys have it kind of all structured?
The first floor gallery does trace the history of Fairfield. In fact, of Jefferson County, we can see the population growing from 59 people in 1840 up to what it is now, well over 10,000.
Wow.
And we can see then not only the growth in terms of number of people here, but industry. About 100 years ago, a famous American economist said, if I'm looking for the best balanced town in the United States, I'm looking for one that has industry, agriculture, and education that all thrive and that are well balanced. And he said, my nomination for that best place is Fairfield, Iowa.
Wow.
So it has been that way for quite a while. The Dick DeAngelis films on the Fairfield History series have tried to talk about all the angles. The new film coming out is on Parsons College. That's the education side. The third film, 2 films ago, was about agriculture. And the fourth film was about people ahead of their time in industry and business. So all 3 of those pillars, you might say, of that strong, balanced community have been under the microscope for historians for a while. So very pleased to have a chance. The farming families in our county have not, in the museum until recently, had as much of a voice, and one of our endeavors is to give them a voice, and we've done it now. We're 16 months in and going onward, all the way scheduled beyond the end of 2024. Wow. We have a once-a-month farm family presentation. We have set aside each month for that month a special display case on third floor for them to tell their story. And when they come in and we interview them or they make a presentation, we record that, and that's on Fairfield Media Center on their YouTube channel. And the response has been terrific. So we've seen the audience growing in person for those monthly shows and in terms of their viewership on the YouTube channel. So very happy that is an area of development. We're delighted that school children are coming into the museum in greater numbers, both small and large. In April, I drove a little bus around town for some second graders who are learning how to make maps. They're learning north, northeast. They learned all the compass points, and I showed them the Underground Railroad, that there's a Freedom Trail that we can soon be able to make signs for here in Fairfield, and they were able to trace it, and then they drew pictures, of course. And for them, B Street Hill was a mountain. You know, they're second graders, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's great to have them in. We've had people come in for research. A man came in the other day from Pella, and I said, well, we're in a different county, but you're always welcome. He said, well, my forebears came into this county to get land. And it's true that Fairfield was the land office for eastern and southern Iowa from 1842 onward, even before Iowa became a state. And so someone who would end up in Pella would be doing their staking of claims legally here.
Wow.
Yep. So we were bigger than we thought.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So as far as community involvement goes, you've got the farmers coming in, doing the display, you're doing different field trips for the schools. What else does the Carnegie Museum have to offer for the community?
Well, we like to have celebrations for the historical events that have happened here, and Business After Hours would be an example of that, where this year we're celebrating the fact that the very first of the Iowa State Fairs, and the second, in fact, of those state fairs was here in Fairfield. 1854, the very first state fair was in Fairfield. I got to tell you, one of the amazing things, we get to kind of unearth various facts. Governor Grimes was elected in 1854, and he wasn't yet inaugurated when they had the state fair. And it's an agricultural fair, and it's the governor-elect, and he's going to be there for the opening ceremony, so they thought it was appropriate to give him a present. And what he was given was a 360-pound wheel of cheese,
Yes.
which 70 years later was recalled in the ledger with the headline, "Mr. Kelly remembers Big Cheese of 1854."
Yes.
So it was an important event. It's fun to unearth those things. It's fun to realize that in 1954 there was a reenactment where people from Fairfield rode all the way to Des Moines to that state fair. And once again at the 150th anniversary of the first state fair, they rode to Des Moines. And some people rode in both that 2004 and the earlier 1954 rides. Mike Carlson was one of them, for example. So it's been fun for us to see the many layers that people have been part of Iowa's history. And in some cases, it's the same families and occasionally the same people within those families.
Yeah.
I don't know where the cheese is. It could still be around.
It could still be. That would be a big wheel of cheese. Yeah. In addition to projects that are going on with the Carnegie, it sounds like you're doing a lot of genealogy type stuff, like within the community as well. Do you have like different connections within the community that if somebody was interested and wanted to, come on board or find out more information, what types of collaborations do you guys do?
Yeah, Jake Schmidt, our curator, who's there full-time, is becoming an expert in using Ancestry.com and Find a Grave. And we don't deal just in graves, but we do look at genealogy and are very happy to do the research. Our staff member, Charlotte Wright, is an expert in this, having done so up at the University of Iowa and the historical societies in Iowa City. So we're happy to take anyone's requests. We can take things back quite far. Our own cemetery, for example, at Evergreen, keeps a sexton's book all the way back to 1839 of who's buried where and when. And so we've been able to develop lines of inquiry that pay off in people being able to put together their family histories.
Wow, that's amazing. And then are there other opportunities that people can have if they are coming to the museum?
Well, we certainly are only too happy to give them tours. A lot of them are surprised at what's there. The Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., as early as 1893, the opening of our museum, made grants, made gifts to us of what were duplicate items for them.
Wow.
And so we have Pima, Arizona Indian artifacts. We have remarkable collections of birds, including some that are extinct. We have woolly mammoth tusks.
Yeah.
We have their teeth. We have birds. A lot of kids have never seen a peacock. We have one. You know, they get to learn about the tower that was in Fairfield from 1882 to 1910 that was 185 feet tall and would radiate light that could be seen in Keosauqua or all the way over in Mount Pleasant. Fairfield was actually known as the town with the tower. Well, we've got a whole exhibit about that too. So we're only too happy to have visitors and to give them a tour. And it's often surprising what people notice and what we're able to provide more information about.
Yeah, there's amazing, displays throughout the whole museum, whether it's the downstairs that kind of highlights the industry section,
Yes.
or whether you're going upstairs and you kind of have like almost like the old settlers area versus like the animals and everything. You kind of have the little Native American. There's so many different areas, and you guys also have a scavenger hunt that's
Yes.
available.
Yes, and it's kind of a challenge. We like to see who's willing to follow through on all the leads that we can put out there. And it's breadcrumbs that we're putting out, but it's all historical breadcrumbs.
Yes.
And they get a chance to visit maybe some displays in depth that they might not have noticed before. So we try to make it fun as well. We want people to feel like they learn something new each time they come, and that history comes to life for them and isn't just something on a shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Is there any other key players that you have over at the Carnegie Museum?
Well, right now, one of our biggest projects involves all of our volunteers and all of us on the staff, and that's getting ready for the Parsons Reunion. Oh. We know that it's 50 years ago was Parsons' final graduation ceremony in 1973. And I don't want to be too specific about dates because this may air at a time that's afterwards, but this fall of 2023 will be, and was, the last occasion for people from Parsons to gather formally. So they're calling it the last hurrah, which I think is a good sense of humor about things.
Yeah.
And it's marvelous to see how much is being shared with the museum. We just had a cheerleader from Chicago who had sent her impeccable cheerleading outfit from 1965 to us, which we're going to display, and make it part of a permanent display of Parsons material. We've got video of the motorcycle races that were on campus, sanctioned, by the way, and it's perfectly fine, and all kinds of material that may not have been otherwise remembered. So the museum is working very much in coordination with the Fairfield History Series films to put together displays that can be permanent, whether people are here or we're here for the fall celebrations and reunion.
That's wonderful. That's amazing how many different aspects you're really highlighting for the community. So whether it's like just overall history to see like the Indian artifacts and like even just like the armor that's in there. There's so many different pieces throughout the museum. But in addition to that, it's like you're really highlighting what's here in our community and like the history of our community and all of the amazing things, that really make up Fairfield and Jefferson County. So I think that's fantastic what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've had so much fun. We do have now a display case that will vary each year. It's going to be 100 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And one of the things that we found, if you look hard enough and far enough, we found in 1923 the number of cars in the entire county and what kinds they were. If you had a Studebaker, that was big time.
It's a cool car.
So great wheels, okay? And it was really fun to see. We have a picture of the first car in Fairfield. It was 1903. Dr. Clark was an early adopter and had one car. And I found a picture that had about 9 cars in. I thought, oh, that's kind of nice. A bunch of friends gathered. They brought their cars to town. Fact was, it was every single car in Jefferson County at that time.
Wow.
So we have that on display too. So in 1903, again, was that very first car for Dr. Clark. It's fun to see. There are amazing finds that people are bringing in. People are starting to share things that are in their attics, that are in their safe deposit boxes, that they want to make sure that someone other than their family, in addition to their family, have a chance to appreciate about the distinctiveness of our county. It's fun. This summer, the Museum on Wheels, it's history, Iowa History 101, the mobile museum, came to the square, and they have a big, huge map of Iowa, and it's filled with little odds and ends. And our distinctive corner of the state lists Fairfield as having the first public library and having the first state fair. So it's fun to see that we're on the map, literally, with the state of Iowa as a whole. That, I guess, and then the Underground Railroad, which is an ongoing project for everyone on our staff, volunteers and the people who are there on a daily basis alike. It had to be a hidden secret. It had to be hidden, had to be clandestine for protecting the safety of the freedom seekers in the 1840s and 1850s. And more information has been coming out in the past year in our research. And we're looking forward. We've made application to the National Park Service, who has among their activities a network to freedom. And we have made application to become part of that and recognized as such, and would like to be able to show all the citizens of our county the Fairfield Freedom Trail down the line. So we'll talk more about that when we get word back from them.
That's amazing. Well, I want to thank you for everything that you guys are doing and bringing to Jefferson County and Fairfield, and just, educating us and the community and keeping us on the map so everybody can continue to learn what we're all about. So if you are interested in checking out the Carnegie Museum, I absolutely invite you to, give them a call, check in. And
we have hours, so regular hours every week, Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from noon to 4. We're happy to entertain calls if you want to leave a message and do some homework for you. We're only too delighted, especially when it comes to family backgrounds and genealogical studies.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.